If you like the content that we're pushing out, please like, share, and of course subscribe. And let us know in the comments what you think about our videos. Like, why would you watch it and not tell us what's going on? And I hope to see you later on. Peace out. Hey, what's up you guys, and welcome to another Alternative Factuals video. And today we're going to be discussing 7 things you possibly could have missed in Luke Cage Season 2. Now before we jump into that, remember if you like our content, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. So the first thing we're going to address out of the 7 things you might have missed is in each episode, the music that's referenced in the nightclub that Mariah is operating out of. Each of the songs that are referenced in the episodes actually play heavily into the plot of that specific episode, as well as the general overall season 2. Now, if you listen to things like Nightshade or even some of the songs that were playing in the nightclub, like this one song, I believe the lyrics went, "I am alone and I've been hurt so bad," that was actually a reference to Mariah and how she's been treated by her grandmother, who obviously we've gotten to know through the second season by her terrible past and how cruel she was and what she did to Bushmaster's family. Number 2. In reality, even though Bushmaster was introduced as the season's 2 villain, and in a lot of ways he really was, but for the most part, a lot of people don't realize that the season was not really ever about Bushmaster. It was a lot about Luke Cage and his self-identity. Believe it or not, despite the way that Bushmaster did things and even the way that he might have came off in the series, he never lost a sense of self in who he was throughout his lifetime. Rather than, it was the opposite for Luke Cage, no matter how many similarities that him and Bushmaster had in common. Luke Cage was very unsure of himself. He doubted himself simply because, one, Claire was digging into some feelings that shouldn't have been dug up, at least not so soon, as well as the fact that Luke Cage already was a black man who was incarcerated, betrayed by the system that he was actually working for, exonerated, and then Claire did not have enough faith in him to be above the negative aspects of which she thought he might fall into. So he began to doubt himself, and he was actually at war physically as well as emotionally with himself, and thus this is why he kind of seemed to have lost his way as we get later into the series. Number 3. Now believe it or not, even though Bushmaster is seen to have been using so-called magic in air quotes, even in the trailers, as when they're referencing specific characters, Bushmaster is actually identified as an alchemist in season 2. So it's really unclear if people are going to use this as a method into introducing alchemy or magic, or somehow they're merging the two and using alchemy as kind of a gateway into this magic kind of use, because we already know that magic does exist because the Hand has been using magic to resurrect people, and I think a little bit of alchemy as well. So we'll see what they decide to do with that, but he actually is identified as an alchemist in season 2 when he's introduced. Number 4. Now this one really isn't a specific, I guess, fact about the overall plot or individual episodes per se when it feeds into the overall story, but this is more or less just how they chose to cast. Now Luke Cage season 2 was actually using local talent to build their cast, which did include the extras, that did also include the people who were playing the instruments and the bands who were playing. These are people who were either born and raised out of Harlem or currently still in Harlem. One of them I actually have met because my father plays the guitar. Haha, fun fact about me. But he knows the guy who was playing, the really big guy who was playing at the club, and he was just murdering that guitar. I mean, like, he murdered that thing. But anyways, yes, they hire local talent in the area in order to make the authentic feel of Harlem really pop on the TV screen, so that way you can actually be submersed in this season. Number 5. Now Mariah's daughter was introduced seemingly innocent in the first at least couple episodes, at least halfway, a little past halfway into the season. And then as we got along, we kind of really we were really seeing her true colors kind of manifest. We really saw that Stokes kind of personality take over. Now the fact that she's able to use these different plants and these herbal-like substances to help heal people or enhance people, it's already kind of been confirmed, as well as heavily suggested, that Mariah's daughter will come back as the villain Nightshade. And Nightshade is a female villain that came out in Luke Cage. Actually, she didn't even come out in Luke Cage. If I remember correctly, that was Captain America number 164. That was August 1973. And she was actually introduced as Nightshade, and then later on in Captain America number 403 she was introduced as Dr. Nightshade. But they kind of rolled it over into Luke Cage because it would kind of make more sense, as well as they're introducing this concept of magic into Harlem as a whole, and it was a nice little cool little spin that they did on it, so it was completely acceptable. Number 6. Now, I mentioned this in a previous video that I did, and this is called Abea, the actual ritual in which Bushmaster has received when he was a little kid, as well as performing in order to enhance himself with the Nightshade plan. Abea is a ritual in which it's considered like dark magic in a sense, where it's a lot like Palo and Voodoo and Hoodoo, like I said in the other video. And it's a ritual that actually physically enhanced Bushmaster, but in a lot of aspects too, it kind of was hurting him in a lot of it. But actually the ritual was used in a substitute as terms of an alchemy source, even though it's still kind of used as magic. So this is where that gray area kind of is. Abea is actually dark magic. So we have the introduction of magic into Luke Cage and into Harlem. But the problem is he's still identified as an alchemist. So there's a little bit of a contradiction slightly, and then to some degree people consider alchemy a form of magic. So I guess they're kind of merging the two, but yes, magic has been introduced into Harlem, and Abea is actually a real dark magic ritual that takes place in the real world. Number 7. Now with this final fact, well, more like things you might have missed. With the introduction of magic / alchemy into Harlem and the character of Nightshade, the people of Harlem will actually have to deal with it in the future seasons, meaning magic has officially taken its place in Harlem, and it has a root in it now. And it comes from someone who is of the bloodline of one of the founding members, so to speak, of Harlem, and that is, like I said, Tilda Stokes, who will actually probably reprise her role as Nightshade or Dr. Nightshade, as I mentioned before. So Harlem is now being officially introduced into magic, which means they're going to open up a lot more doorways in terms of what's going to be going on in Harlem and how magic is going to affect Luke Cage, because I personally do know and well aware that magic overrides a lot of science related things. Let me know if you've noticed anything else. These are only 7 things, so I want to know what you guys notice. And remember, if you're new to the channel, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe and leave a comment down below. And I hope to see you in the next one. Peace out, Zaddy.